and start recording. And here we are. Okay. And then I will open up the chat so I can actually see what you're all saying here. Um, Walden student in Trinidad and Tobago. All right, faculty, welcome. Welcome, welcome. How about the rest of you? What are you doing? Grad student faculty from Rodford. Okay, great. Welcome. Faculty, great. Students, okay. It seems like we have a fair amount of faculty on the line here, which is great. So, the GCU, we love to see GCU folks here. Um, just by the way, GCU, the quant and the qual and the intellectus lit review are all available there. Melissa, correct me. The lit review is available at GCU?
They can access it. It's not on the DC network yet, but all the other tools are, and once you're logged into those, you can access it.
Okay. And maybe we should put in um, the general website where you can access all three tools for those that don't have access already. Um, and the other thing I was going to say is um, let's see here, faculty. Ashley is your contact, and Melissa, but Ashley, and they can do things like give you a trial to the tool, get personalized training set up, show you the courseware. So we love Ashley too. And so right. So Ashley has a lot of love, okay? Maybe the most loved. So yes, contact Ashley and and she can get you set up with that. Okay. So let's move through some of this. And then I want to show you the tool, go over some basics, show you the tool. But again, I want to be here for you. So I want you to tell me your problems. Where are your struggles? That's going to be beneficial. It's a little bit risky because you're being vulnerable about where you're struggling, but so are the other folks on the line. So please do share that your story. Okay, so um, basic agenda. I'm going to go over basics. What's a basic? A basic is things you must know to start engaging in quantitative analysis. Show you how to access the Intellectus account, which is good for how long, Melissa?
Sorry. It's good through tomorrow if you're
Okay,
using the link that I sent you to log in.
got it. Okay, and then setting up analysis, downloading results, discussion, and some Q&A. But I want that Q&A throughout, though. All right, so don't wait. Okay, very basic. For those of that you who know this, sorry. Uh, and for those that who don't, this is a must do. So all quantitative data is going to fall into one of three buckets. You're either in a nominal level variable like males, females, non-binary, Republican, Democrat, Independent, um, and so forth. Just labels, it's the most coarse way of getting data, but a lot of data is like that, okay? Ordinal has a label, okay, and also an order, but not necessarily equal orders. For example, age groups could be 20 to 30, 30 to 50, 55 plus. You certainly have labels, you certainly have an order, but they're not equal. 50 plus could be to, the 104-year-old. And scale, I am bucketing ratio, interval, continuous, all into that, okay? It has both a label, it has both an order, and equal intervals or equal volumes or equal amounts or equal times, for example. So, 1 inch, 2 inch, 3 inch, 4 inch, 5 inch have labels 1 inch, 2 inch, 3 inch, 4 inch, 5 inch, has an order, two after one, three after two, and equal spacing. But it could well be volume or time or whatever that metric is. Also importantly is these labels, these icons over here. Those icons are just not for the fun of it. Those icons are indicating that level of measurement. So some particular statistical tests have particular levels of measurement that they accept or don't accept. And throughout the tool, you will see those icons if you look carefully, and I'll highlight them. So just to know, hey, gosh, I'm looking to correlate two scale variables, but I don't see that, okay, in my data. Well, perhaps you have it labeled as ordinal. You should know what an independent and dependent variable is. That should know. Everyone's got to start somewhere. So basically, the dependent variable, let's start there. Dependent variable is the outcome variable. So that's the thing that's being um, evaluated that's based on the participants, okay? So it's the amount of time spent, for example, running a 5K race. Some other outcome variable, the number of falls per 1,000 bed days. Could be anything. Okay. So it's the outcome variable. Typically, that's the thing that we're really trying to evaluate. The independent variable is really the variable that's often manipulated by the researcher. For example, I'm looking at 5K race times by male or female. I decide that as the researcher, or by age. I decide that, or by region or country or whatever. Okay, so the independent variables are typically under the control of the researcher, where the dependent variable is really the thing that we're really trying to measure and look at. You can get logged in here. Okay. Um, okay. I should change this, Ms. Moran, where we have the lit review as well. So we do have one place for you to log into the statistics or the qualitative or the courseware or the Intellectus lit review tool. Probably most on this call are past that point, but for those that are just starting or you have colleagues or students coming down the pike, the Intellectus Lit Review with brand new lower pricing and better models are forthcoming in a week or so. Monday, probably. Okay. Okay. So, all right, let's just see what else we have here. Common challenges, you know, people have problems with what test do I conduct, and I really need to do a better job with getting a course just to help decide that. In our lessons, we kind of say a t-test is used for this, but some kind of holistic, all right, how do I decide the test? We have a decision tree for that, and I'll briefly go over that as well. How to conduct. This is the reason for our existence. That after probably going on 20 years now, folks did not know, how do I conduct a paired t-test? What is the assumption? Where do I find that? How do I evaluate that? Those are very things that must happen, but also that folks do struggle with. So we kind of streamlined that process, as well as what that output means. If a P is less than 0.05 for an assumption, is that good or bad? We actually interpret that in plain English, simple English. So these are, if you're stuck with any of these three things, you are not alone. There's another million people on the globe struggling with that same exact thing. So know that. And don't be embarrassed about that. Okay. We have to all start. And if you don't know what a level of measurement is, you'll learn that. If you don't know how to interpret that, we will help you with that. So these are common things. This is just to share that we have a lot of built-in data sets, built in for the courses, built in by each individual test, and so forth. And you can see from that third column, pardon me, from the third column that we have tons of analyses. So basically, aside from some very unusual tests, we have 50, 80 tests that you can really access and do relatively quickly, as well as kind of sophisticated tests that it would take you 6 months, okay, to take a class where we can kind of help you move through a particular test. We've added a data cleaning wizard. The data cleaning wizard helps to streamline the process. If you are a faculty or student and saying the data cleaning is taking a long time, welcome to our club. Okay. Those that are doing quantitative analyses, 90% of the job is data cleaning. I can do analyses in 40 seconds. So data cleaning can take 15 minutes to hours. So the data cleaning wizard will help you, in particular, help when you have Qualtrics um, uh, output and it needs to be streamlined. And in fact, once you open up your data, you will get dropped into the data cleaning wizard. And then, of course, our newest discussion draft. Discussion chapters are, you know, people spend a long time on it, okay? This will move your life forward 20 hours, okay? Because what our discussion chapter draft will do is take your data, your results, okay, and then put that in context with the literature. What are the implications of your findings for practice? What are the implications of your finding for theory? What are the limitations of your study? Typically sample size and other things, okay? What is the future research that perhaps you can consider? So to have a draft of that is a winner, okay? And then we'll get to Q&A as we go through that. So let's get to it. Are there any immediate questions that I should be looking at? Okay. Yes, everyone will get a copy of the interviews. Okay. And Anthony, we can get to, particularly if you have data, look at ANOVA kind of stuff, and I can look to exemplify that. This is the layout of intellective statistics, and there's several things just to be looking at here. First is that it's web-based. You're not downloading, updating, things of that sort. You can access this from wherever you are. The first top 4 tabs here are the projects where I can either upload data using example data set data or enter data manually. I have data management where I can select the project first, where you can do various data management tasks, which often include creating a composite scale, score or scale, a subscale, and you can reverse code items of your survey instrument. You can download your managed data and so forth. I guess I want to just highlight, oftentimes I want to talk about imputation for a moment. When you click imputation, what does that word even mean? So imputation or imputing data, very often you'll have, let's say, a 10-item survey instrument looking at self-efficacious, close enough. But a participant missed one item. Well, I don't want to throw out that participant's other 9 items. So imputation will look at either the mean of a scale variable plus some standard deviation, or look at the frequency of some nominal or ordinal level scale and impute a value for that. So let's just take a quick example of that. So let's get rid of this. So let's just say that I am looking to use, Q1 through these Q10, but this guy's missing. So if I click compute, okay, you can see that Q1 is there. All right. By doing that and putting that a imputed value into that cell, it's going to take the mean of this plus or minus some standard deviation and give you a score. That will then you can use to when you calculate the average or the sum of these items, you can at least use that participant without throwing him or her out. Downloading your data is important. Can't tell you how many times people have worked with consultants, and I said, "Where is your data?" And they say, "We don't have it." Okay, your data needs to be your data, okay, and access. So whether you're using a consultant, which if you need help, get it. But even for your own keeping of that data, probably an IRB requirement, 5 or 7 years, you need to have that data. You need to have that data with those subscales. I think I've created some subscales over here probably, okay? All right, so you need to have that data available as part of a requirement. Why keep that data, by the way? Why do they even care about the data? Well, they care about the data because if you find something interesting, okay, people are going to want to replicate that, okay? What did you do? What data are you using to find that result? There was a replication crisis, really, in social science and health science, particularly in social sciences, that they could not replicate it. Well, you have to have that data to share with folks. De-identified, but people need to replicate what you're doing. You just can't be fudging data, and you need to have that in there. There are 10 types of plots to be had. We've made this very simple. I'll do a profile plot. Let me highlight the icons. That's a scale variable here. Those are ordinal or nominal. Okay. So if I wanted to look at some total trait EI, okay, by education, for example, I'm going to hit submit and we're going to find out what that looks like. You should also note that there's a video tutorial with every data management task, every analysis task, every plot. There's a video to show you how to quickly do that. These are novel things that are not sitting around in SPSS or Excel. Okay, Excel's getting smarter, but to have that how-to at your fingertips, just know that it's there as well as a help page. So here I'm just doing one of those 10 plots. I'm looking at a few variables and hitting submit. And you can see the levels of education to the right and what's happening between total, I think it's trade intelligence. So you can see what's happening. You can scroll over. It's kind of interactive. You can change these labels and subtitles and put in numbers. You can export them in numerous ways. Okay. You can change the colors and so forth. Okay. And we have analyses. The analyses run the gamut of descriptives and different types of correlations. And seems like a lot of proportion tests these days. Comparing some percent of falls before and percent of falls after. For those EDDs out there, I'd be curious to see what your testing of proportions examples are. Various t-tests. You'll notice the scroll over here, which is kind of helping to validate and give you more certainty about that I'm doing the right test. ANOVAs, someone just asked about a repeated measures ANOVA, I can do that. MANOVAs, different types of regressions, different types of non-parametric, of which the chi-squares are hallmark. Seems like that's used quite a bit. There are advanced analyses like structural equation modeling, mediation moderation, very popular. Um, a note about that oftentimes um, for the students out there, we are not changing the world. We are not solving the war in the Sudan. Okay, we're adding a little body of research or study. I know nurses don't like to call research, but mediation moderation is a way to kind of use existing data sets, add a little tweak to it, and add some knowledge to be had there. So that's worth looking into, particularly for existing data sets that I just want to extend a little bit. Okay, and other types of analyses there. That's the four kind of main things to do analyses. These things are a priori things. What does that mean? What that means is I need to figure out what test I'm using. Well, the decision tree can help you do that. And it can do things like I want to predict an outcome that is scale. I'll be doing a linear regression. Okay, then you could just jump right into it, conduct the analyses, and you're right into that linear regression. And we all know what a dependent and independent variables are now. I think that just shoots me off into some description of these things. So, and when you click into this, you'll notice the icon as well, and then the list of variables to be had. I know I'm speaking quickly. That's why we're recording this. You can stop and pause and say, Jim, slow it down, but okay. But we have a lot of stuff to get to, but and I'm happy to circle back, but want to give you the broad arch of what we're doing here. We're uploading data, we're managing data, we're plotting data, we're analyzing data, we're figuring out what test we should be using, okay? And once I know I'm doing a linear regression, I want to have some sense of what is the data plan, that is the assumptions of that test, that we have a template here that you can download and then also edit. Okay, so we're giving you tools and information to move you through the beginning parts of your research, in particular your methodology. And Melissa, this is going to fold right into our methodology tool when we get there. Okay, so we have a lot of stuff going on here. So data plans, and then of course power analysis. Um, So power analysis is simply how many participants do I need to have an 80% chance of finding differences if they're there to be found. Some folks get very confused um, because there's two types of sample sizes in the world. One sample size is I'm trying to figure out how folks are going to vote, and I need to know the population sample size and then figure that out. That is very, very often not the case in dissertations or in a lot of journal article research that's to be had. We are figuring out what is the sample size based on the statistical test that we're doing. So the data plans, the power analysis, pardon me, the power analysis really for the different tests are listed here. There's another conversation around choosing the effect size, but worst case, you can go with a medium effect size. But there are use cases where previous literature has found a large or small effect size based on those kind of variables, and then a reference there. So to recap, the latter part at least, for your methodology and particularly for your IRB, someone was in IRB, you're going to need to know the test, the assumptions of that test, and the sample size. Okay. Questions. Okay. Wait, no, it'd be okay. Do we have particular folks, Melissa, that have data uploaded that we can work with?
If you've uploaded your data or if you've shared it, if you want to raise your hand, we can unmute you.
And while we're waiting for that, let me just exemplify some of this business here. So I'm going into choosing an example data set. I think I have a master class. I'm just going to select that, create that project, and I have data. So you'll notice that we have a few of these things at nominal level, okay, and an ordinal level, and the scale variable. We can, by hitting the caret, okay, you can manage that data, okay. Um, for example, perhaps I wanted to put the Godfather, categorize these by when the movie came out. So maybe Shawshank Redemption and Godfather go together, and Endgame is in another bucket. I could do that. Okay, I have to click these. So maybe I want to put, pre whatever, 1990. Okay. And maybe this is post 2000. Somebody can tell me, when did Endgame come out? Um, I'm guessing. Anybody? Do we have somebody who's a Marvel person over here? When did Endgame come out?
I think
Anybody?
2019.
2019. Okay. I'm totally showing my age over here. Okay, so maybe you want to categorize these into times, make a new variable. All right. So you can edit data, you can manage data there, okay, or change levels of measurement. Okay. Okay. Let's just do some analyses. The one hallmark of good analyses are descriptive statistics. You must do descriptive statistics. If you don't, it's to your peril, okay? Because if I'm going to go look at GPA pre to post, okay? I'm selecting these variables, and I just do descriptives, which is just looking at the means and standard deviations. Okay. Importantly is the min and max. If I have a 44 there, okay, that's called a data entry error, which we're human. So, but you want to correct that before we do the analyses. If you do not, what's going to happen is you're going to conduct the analyses, perhaps start editing that output, and then you're like, I had a 44 in there. You have to go redo everything. So save yourself a step, two parts. Conduct descriptives, and part B, look at the descriptives that you got. I have messed up on both of those by not doing it or not looking at it. And to my peril, redid everything. Or as an old employee used to say, you do it right or you do it twice. Conducting and evaluating that is the right. Okay. You can just see little scroll overs there. You can, um, we have thought through from users' perspective, where do you get stuck? Well, I don't know what the heck that means. Well, that indicates median. Okay. To do a simple test, paired sample t-test, perhaps I want to say if GPA pre different from GPA post. Notice the icon. Notice the video. Add to the analyses. So with all of these tests, The if there's an assumption to be had, the assumptions are identified. The specific test to test that assumption is put in there. The actual test is conducted. Okay. And that test is then evaluated. Oops. That test is then evaluated. The test is violated. Okay. That's what a significant Shapiro-Wilk test indicates. The results are in plain English. That gets back to what does this mean? Okay. So this is one way to actually report it. So this is a sample. This has to be edited. This is published with Turnitin. That part right there. You must edit this thing. But I guess the key part here is that it's significant for those using hypothesis testing. You have an interpretation of that. And here we can see some interpretation that GPA pre was lower than GPA post. You have an APA table, again, stepping you through the process. Um, and again, you'll want to edit this. Perhaps the phraseology is GPA post is greater than GPA pre. So that's your editorial input. We also have scroll overs to share what that is, what that symbol means. Here it's Cohen's D. It's really important that um, that we look at the effect size as well as the probability level. And there's a discussion to be had there, but we also have enabled when quantitative assumptions are violated, and hopefully soon when graphical assumptions are violated, okay, that we impute pardon me, that we enable the non-parametric test, which is a fancy way of saying I want to assess the same thing, in our case, GPA pre to post, but without the assumptions. And that test is a Wilcoxon sign rank test. And here, again, it identifies whether that test was statistically significant, and it shows you one way to report that. Hey, gosh, the median at pre was different than the median at post. Okay. The other thing I will do is show the discussion draft. We probably don't need the beta these days, but okay. It's pretty tight already. So the generated discussion draft, you should first title your discussion draft. Here it's going to be webinar, whatever it is, Feb 5. I'm just gonna, you can add the research problem and the purpose statement. That's going to be helpful to let the AI chew on that. And then the research question at hand is, does GPA pre differ from GPA post? Okay. Okay. For first uh, generation Americans or first generation college students who had some kind of tutorial. We get a little windy here, wordy and windy. Okay. Once you and you can edit these too. Sometimes the acronyms that you use, like EE, might be emotional intelligence from the match like burnout. Maybe the transform is transformational leadership from the MLQ, and so forth. And you'll want to put the accurate description of that variable name, okay, in here. Once you endorse what you want to endorse, you have to confirm that says, look, this is AI drafted. You need to edit every single word. Okay. Once that starts chewing, you can go back and do other things or leave it and come back and so forth. Okay, are there any quick questions to be had prior to waiting for that at all? Um,
I haven't gotten any in, but again, feel free to raise your hands or use the chat.
okay. Um, while we're waiting for that, I will then, because this does take a minute. While we're waiting for that, I will take a sidestep and introduce for those folks doing mixed method. Um, that we also do have a qualitative tool, and you can watch the video here. I went to intellectus360.com. That there's a qualitative tool that also brings AI into your journey of identifying excerpts and codes and themes. Also has a discussions chapter. We also have the Intellectus Lit Review, and you can watch a video of that, which is going to be able to take your PDFs, your PDF articles or book chapters, and then figure out which of those group together, write a synthesis of that grouping, and then do a deep dive into each one of those articles or chapters, and then finally present the draft of the gap in the literature that links together the your study aims or research questions with the literature, and at least present some intellectual ideas about how and why the study needs to be conducted, and that rationale, that gap, is that bridge to those literature and your methodology. Okay, if I come back here, so processing, it does take a few minutes. Other questions going on? Okay. Let me just get to one that's already here instead of waiting. And I think I could have done a better job of putting it up top. You can see I do a lot of work over time. This was a study that it was mock data of Maslach's burnout scale, depersonalization, emotional exhaustion, and personal achievement. I did some analyses on this. It's amazing how many analyses you can do with a small data set. I did correlations among these subscales. I looked to see if there were differences by gender. I went to go see if exhaustion can predict achievement and so forth. The discussion chapter, and all the discussion chapters, of course, are downloadable, but it will have an introduction to it. It will help summarize and encapsulate the core essence of your findings, and then bring you into a theoretical implications of your findings relative to other research. That's pretty cool. Practical implications of your study using, again, other kinds of studies there. Limitations of your study, future research directions, and conclusions. Okay. And then references. All of that needs to be vetted. Okay. All of it needs to be vetted. Okay. Questions? Let me get to, let me just do this. I will share, here's some contact information for everyone. Again, Samantha can help with student support, 15-minute needs assessment, um, typically revolving around supporting you with chapter 4 or results, chapter 5 or discussion, and the PowerPoint. If you're not strong in PowerPoint presentations, we can put that together for you in a day. Ashley can help with trials, demonstrations of any of the tools, the quant, the qual, the lit review. Um, courseware can give you trials. By the way, those courses can go behind your LMS. They're competency based. So grades go to grade books and it supports the learning of quantitative analysis. Melissa, for general questions, the general website and phone number, and then to schedule a quick, 20-minute call with me, you can use that QR code, which I presume is still working. Okay. Um, Final thoughts? Anybody? Oops. Okay. If there are no final thoughts, look for, I'll say, refreshed webinars this year. I want to help you with your journey. And as a company, Intellectus 360 has the most comprehensive set of AI research tools on the planet. Some people doing quant or lit review, we're kind of putting it all together. Between that and consulting, we can support you, be it faculty or student. So, and please do share this with others. You may have colleagues that were unable to attend, but hey, gosh, we know that they're not strong in data analysis, for example, or managing messy data. Okay. So I can really bring the tools and 30 years of experience and clear communication to the table to support you or your colleagues. Okay. I think that's about it. Melissa, any thoughts, comments?
Nope, that's it. We'll send the recording to everyone, and if you have questions later, feel free to just reply to those emails and we'll get everything answered.
Thank you all for your attention. Have a wonderful weekend and look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.